What's going on, guys? Tagoar here, keeping it tanky in Raid Shadow Legends, and we are going to wrap up the first faction in our series of ranking each faction's legendaries, both void and non, within their respective factions. Starting off the second half with Chronicler Adlin. I think she is arguably the second worst login champ that I've ever seen. Arguably the worst or second worst login champ ever. She's not good. Hold up, click the link in the description right now to get a free Uugo, as well as 2 more free epic champions as you level up. Here are the steps to get yours. Step 1, log out of Plarium Play on PC and uninstall. Step 2, click the link in the description and register with a brand new email. Step 3, launch Raid and complete the tutorial. Step 4, go to your inbox and claim your first champ. This is an amazing account start to Raid, so click the link and start now. Her stats aren't bad, but her kit just isn't great. She's got an A1 with a 75% chance of transferring a random debuff as well as stealing a random buff. So a little buff debuff exchange on the A1. On the A2, restores 25% of each ally's destroyed max HP, then heals all allies by 25% of this champion's max HP. That can be a nice heal. I'll give her that. And then on the A3, she has a 100% chance when booked of placing sleep on the target for 1 turn. Also has a 100% chance of placing decreased speed and decrease attack for 2 turns. This will ignore block debuffs on a 3-turn cooldown. She's got a spot in Sand Devil, but she's still not going to be great because it's resistible. Still got a 3% chance of failing. And then on the passive, allies deal 3% more damage to targets for each debuff placed on them by this champion. She carries 3 debuffs, so you're looking at 9% extra damage from allies. That passive doesn't work with her kit at all, in my opinion. Increases ally accuracy in all battles by 60. I would give Chronicler Adlin, honestly, I'd give her a 2. If she didn't have her place in Sand Devil, she's a 1. Lugan the Steadfast, arguably worse than Chronicler Adlin. He's just bad unless he's like your first legendary or something. He's a Vault Guardian till you've got your faction wars filled, and then in my opinion, chuck him in the token trader. A1 heals all allies by 25% of the damage inflicted. Places a shield buff on this champion equal to 10% of their max HP for 2 turns. On the A2, places increased defense and ally protection. It's on a 3-turn cooldown. It's an okay protection skill, but his stats aren't going to lend himself to being good at protecting. And then he's got an AoE block active skills on the A3. On a 4-turn cooldown, it's just bad. He's got HP and faction crips by 38%. Honestly, a 1. I think he's probably the worst legendary in the faction. I give Lugan a 1 out of 10. Septimus. I've been wrecked by a Septimus in Arena before. I know a lot of people hate him. I don't know why. He's got a A1, grants an extra turn, and resets the cooldown of his skill if the target is killed. And that skill attacks one enemy, will ignore shield and block damage, and does enemy max HP damage. On his passive, each attack has a 30% chance of increasing the duration of all debuffs on the target by 1 turn. Damage inflicted by each attack increases by 30% if the enemy's current HP is over 50%. He's got attack in all battles by 23%. That's a horrible aura that needs an update. Honestly, I don't see why this guy is hated. He's simple, but seems to be effective. I mean, yeah, he's wrecked my teams before. I give Septimus a 6 out of 10. I think he's better than average, and I think that speaks volumes to how picky people are in this game, to be honest. Richtof the Bold. Man, talk about another bad legendary. His stats are horrible. On the A1, it's an AoE, so I guess he's good for stun sets, I guess. Destroys each target's max HP by 30% of the damage inflicted. Triple hitter A2, each hit places poison on all enemies for 2 turns. And then an A3, attacks one enemy. Critical damage increases by 20% for each poison debuff on the target, stacks up to 100%. On a 4-turn cooldown, attack and faction crips by 27%. I give Richtof a 3. He's a poisoner, so I'll give him that. But no, he's bad. Kaja the Rye. Now, this is a good champion, in my opinion. Again, the better half of the companion champ pairing of Timid and Kaja. I think she's fantastic. I really think that she's only got one downside, and that's going to be on her A3. But on our A1, she attacks one enemy, heals this champion by 10% of their max HP. If any Timids are on the same team, heals all of them by the same amount. On the A2, revives all dead allies with 50% HP and turn meter, then places increased crit rate and crit damage on them for 2 turns. If the Timid is on the same team and dead, revives him with full HP and turn meter, and if he is on the same team and alive, resets and instantly activates their Keg of Dread skill. It's a very solid revive, and it plays very well with Timid. And then on the A3, fills the turn meter of all allies by 20%, also removes 2 random debuffs from each ally. If Timid is on the same team, removes all debuffs from all allies, and places block debuffs on all allies for 1. That, I think, if the block debuffs were on a 2-turn duration, I think she would be absolutely beyond solid. Her passive, all turn meter reduction effects from enemies are decreased by 50%. If Timid is on the same team, she is now immune to turn meter reduction effects. If an enemy attempts to decrease her turn meter while Timid's on the same team, fills this champion's turn meter by the same percentage instead. She's got speed in all battles by 19%. Great base stats. I give Kaja an 8 out of 10. If she had that 2-turn duration on her block debuffs, she'd be a 9. Easy. No questions asked. Aislinn the Stalwart. He is a good champion, but as far as the faction unity champions are concerned, I think he's actually one of the weakest ones. A1 stun, 75% chance, will ignore 25% of the target's resistance if this champion is under a shield. Heals all allies by the total value of all shields on all allies, then removes all shields from all allies and attacks all enemies. The damage dealt by this attack is equal to the total value of the shields removed, and that cannot exceed 1000% of this champion's defense. Such a weird skill. And then on his A3, places a shield buff equal to 30% of this champion's HP on all allies for 2 turns, and places ally protection on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. With one faction ally, he instantly activates the skill whenever an ally is revived. Will not put this skill on cooldown. It'll only activate once if there's multiple on the same team, which I have no idea why you would run 2 of these guys on the same team. With 2 allies, he also places block damage on himself for 2 turns, and with 3 allies, they're all protected buffs. He's an alright protector. I think if you don't use that A2, he could be really good in some kind of like shield growth comp. On the passive, allies under shield buffs receive 10% less damage. It does not stack with multiple copies of the same champion. With one faction ally, allies under shield are immune to all crowd control except for sheep. With 2 allies, allies under ally protection buffs have a 20% counterattack, which is good. With 3 allies, the value of all allies shield buffs is increased by 100% except shields from artifact sets. Yeah, I don't think he's very good as far as faction unity champions are concerned. As far as the champions within his faction are concerned, got defense in all battles by 25% and HP by 15%. For Bannerlords, he's got alright base stats. As far as just as a champion within this faction, I will give Aislinn 5 out of 10. I'll give him middle of the road, nothing to write home about, but not terrible. Raglan, the weakest of the Bannerlord Void legendaries, but I think she is underrated simply because all of her skills are really strong. On A1, attacks one enemy 3 times, fills the turn meter of 3 random allies by 15%. Allies can only have their turn meter filled once per turn by this skill. So you're filling 3 allies turn meter by 15%. If that's arena, that's everybody. It's a good A1. On the A2, fully cleanses all allies, then heals them. The heal is proportional to this champion's attack. That heal is not going to be massive because her attack is not very high, but it's better than nothing. On a 4-turn cooldown though. And then she has a really strong single target revive on a 2-turn cooldown, reviving an ally with 75% HP and a full turn meter. I think this revive is what makes her really good. Yes, it's single target, but it is on a 2-turn cooldown, so you are going to be going back to it very often. She's got defense in all battles by 33%. I give Raglan a 7.5 out of 10. I think she is very much slept on. I would not be disappointed if she was my first Void Legendary. Baron. Woo! This guy is a menace to society. I've been wrecked by him in Arena. I know he melts Doom Tower waves, normal and hard. Yeah, he's an absolute monster. On the A1, attacks one enemy, will attack all remaining enemies with any surplus damage if the target is killed. The A2 attacks one enemy, places decreased defense for 2 turns, which is guaranteed. I don't know what guaranteed means. I'm going to assume that it means it cannot be blocked or resisted. And then on the A3, attacks one enemy, damage increases according to the number of buffs on this champion. I don't know how that scales, but it's gotta hit hard. And then on the A4, this guy has 4 damage dealing skills. Is an AoE, will ignore shield and block damage buffs, as well as 50% of the target's defense. Nuke on nuke on nuke on nuke. He's got attack in all battles by 33%. He's got good base stats. I give Baron I give him a 9 out of 10. For Void Nukers, you can do a whole lot worse than Baron. And then we come to the cream of the crop, arguably the best champion pair in the entire game, Taurus the Fierce, coming in here first. This guy's nuts. He's so strong that literally half of one of his passives is a nerf to himself because he's just that good. On the A1, attacks one enemy 2 times, has a 40% chance of placing decreased attack for 2 turns. Each critical hit fills the turn meter of all allies by 5%. Not only does he hit like a truck, but he's also providing decreased attack and a 10% turn meter fill for all allies just for existing. As long as he's not crowd control, he's at least doing that much. On the A2, attacks one enemy, places a stun debuff for 2 turns, deals double damage to enemies whose attack is equal to or higher than this champion's attack. He is HP based, so that should be really easy to do. Passive effect: whenever an enemy attacks Marichka, attacks that enemy using this skill. This guy is so strong, it's unbelievable. 35% damage from books on this skill. On the A3, attacks all enemies, damage increases by 15% for each buff on allies, then increases the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn, heals this champion by 5% for every buff that had its duration increased, and restores destroyed max HP equal to the amount of any surplus heal. Yes, it's on a 4-turn cooldown. No, it doesn't matter because it hits so hard that everyone's dead. Even in Hydra, that move just obliterates. Fierce Battler passive: when attacked, decreases the enemy's attack by 10%, up to 50 or 25 against bosses. Occurs once per skill, and the attack reduction resets after each round. I don't know what point that serves because I don't know what fights are going to go multiple rounds where you fight the same enemy. The active effect places a fear on all enemies from the Orcs, Ogryn, Undead, and Demon Spawn factions at the beginning of each round for 1 turn, and those debuffs cannot be resisted. So he is punishing you for attacking him, and then he is crowd controlling you if you're using 4 different factions. And then finally, on the second passive, all incoming damage from skills is reduced by 50%. So not only is he HP based, so he's already beyond tanky, he's also reducing enemy attack, which also makes him even more tanky. And then while he's at it, he's reducing damage taken by 50%. When attacked, this champion's max HP will be decreased by 25% of the attack's initial damage before the damage reduction kicks in. Literally, he is so good that he nerfs himself on his passive just to keep him from being obscene. And then he's got a crit rate in all battles by 24%. Nobody cares about that aura. All we care about is the fact that he hits like a Abram tank. I give Taurus, to no one's surprise, a 10 out of 10. The best nuker in the faction. Marichka the Unbreakable, the other half of Taras, man, she is so good. Arguably better because she's more versatile being a support, but you can't go wrong with having either one of these champions. On the A1, attacks one enemy. One random ally will team up and join the attack. The ally joining the attack will always use their default skill. If Taras is on the same team, he will always be the one to join. On the A2, fully restores any allies destroyed max HP, then heals all allies by 40% of this champion's max HP. Places a shield buff and a protected strengthen buff on all allies for 2 turns. The value of the shield is equal to 20% 90% of this champion's max HP. Oh my gosh, the amount of protection and survivability that she provides is just unprecedented. On the A3, fully cleanses all allies, then fills the turn meter of all allies by 15%. Fills the turn meter of each ally by an extra 5% for each debuff removed from them. Also increases the resistance of all allies by 5 for each debuff removed. Grants an extra turn if 5 or more debuffs were removed. It's on a 4-turn cooldown. If you get that extra turn, it's basically a 3. That is an incredibly powerful skill with a crap ton of turn meter. And then on a passive, she revives all dead allies with 50% HP and 75% turn meter whenever this champion is killed. And on a 3-turn cooldown, she will place a block damage buff on all allies for 1 turn whenever an ally receives a bomb, poison, or HP burn debuff. If there are multiple champions on this team with this skill, only one will activate. She's got speed in all battles by 24%. Run her alongside another reviver and you're basically never gonna die. It's insane. She is incredibly powerful. I want this champion incredibly badly. Easy 10 out of 10. I would go higher if my scale went higher. Finally, for this faction, Quintus the Triumphant, Mr. Live Arena himself. I know Felrus was really high on this champion for a while. If you don't know who that is, go check him out. He does really good work. Attack-based, Void Legendary, really high base attack, good base speed. This guy hits hard. Attacks one enemy, places an extra hit if the target has no buffs. If this attack is critical, repeats the attack once. I don't know if that means that it can go up to a 4-hitter, but it's a triple hitter minimum because, well, at the minimum, it has the potential to be a triple hitter. And it's a good hard-hitting A1. On the A2, attacks one enemy, removes all buffs, then places decreased defense for 2 turns before attacking. These effects cannot be resisted or blocked. Damage inflicted by this skill cannot be decreased by enemy passive skills or masteries except by bosses. By the same token, this damage cannot be increased by either this champion's masteries or ally passive skills except when attacking bosses. Resets the cooldown of his A3 if the attack kills an enemy. On the A3, it's an AoE, places increased attack and increased crit damage on this champion for 3 turns before attacking. Resets the cooldown of the strip away skill, his A2, if this attack kills an enemy. So basically, if he kills somebody with one of his skills, he's getting the other one back. Then on his passive, each of this champion's skills deals additional pure damage. The amount of pure damage dealt is equal to 10% of the target's max HP for each buff on them. The additional pure damage dealt will ignore shield buffs. This can stack up really quickly and it does a lot of damage. It's good for Bommel, and Felrus uses it in Dragon, or at least has in the past, because the purple bar that shows up on the dragon when it's trying to prep its secret skill classifies as a buff. He hits hard. He's got attack in arena battles by 35%. One of the very few reasons to actually grind out your live arena. He's a very good champion. I can't wait to get a hold of mine. I will give Quintus an 8.5 out of 10. I think he is really good, but not like top tier. Alrighty guys, that will wrap up the first faction of legendaries ranked within their own faction. What do you guys think of my rankings? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if you're excited for the future installments of this series. I love hearing from you guys. I hope you all remain happy, healthy, and tanky. I've been Corrodor.